successful, iconic, compassionate musician, including singer-songwriter, pilot, athlete, mentor, Hall of Famer, motto of character and integrity. We should all be so lucky to have any or all of those words in the same sentence with our names. Peel Hawthorne's remarkable 30-year coaching career has landed her among only 13 women who have hit the 300-win milestone at the same Division I institution. For Peel, that is the College of William & Mary. I believe that puts Peel in a similar category with Pat Summitt and other coaching greats. Lucky for me that I also get to call Peel a longtime dear friend, and if you ever have anyone in your life to leave a footprint as remarkable as Peel's, then you too will be lucky. And we are lucky to have Peel as a St. Catherine's alumna and here with us today, and that is as brief as I can capture an amazing woman who's here with us today.
I was told to come over here. So. I don't always do what I'm told, but in this case, I'll make an exception. I had to honestly look up what the International Day of the Girl was, and I understand that it's a fairly new thing. But I'm very pleased to be here this morning with you all and just take a few minutes of your time to talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart. I believe that we all come into this world hardwired for something, a talent, a purpose, a passion, and some people spend a lifetime trying to figure out what that is. Sadly, a lot of people are not in an environment where they're allowed to do that. And throughout the world, girls and women particularly struggle for basic rights, such as the freedom to move about in public without being escorted by a father or a brother or a husband. They're not able to protect their own bodies, they're not able to own property or access an education, and they have no voice. Whole generations, whole nations of girls and women are shut out of basic rights and opportunities every day simply because of their gender. And we struggle to understand this, don't we? Because we're in a society that values women. It's so different here in the United States. And especially here at St. Catherine's, it's profoundly different. It's exceptional, it's special, it's life-changing. Here we're allowed, and indeed we're encouraged, to figure out what we're good at, to discover our passions, and to grow with confidence in an environment that celebrates and affirms our talents and our value as women in society. We are blessed, and we take this for granted because it's part of our culture. But even today, right here in the U.S., we still struggle with all kinds of discrimination, including discrimination against women. Throughout generations, we've needed laws to enact social change in our country, and we've needed courageous politicians and organizations and individuals to support those laws, to keep our feet to the fire and keep us moving towards equality. And Title IX, which is part of the Education Amendment of 1972, is one of those laws and the topic of my talk this morning. People think Title IX is about athletics, but in fact, the law itself makes no mention of athletics. It's just one sentence. It says, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. That's it. One sentence. It became law, and it changed our society. It changed the way we look at women in sport, and women in education, and women in the sciences and technological fields, and women in the workplace. It changed my life, but more importantly, it changed yours. Athletics were not the intended target of Title IX, but athletics became the most visible and measurable vehicle for change, and I doubt that the signers of that bill had any idea at the time that Title someone like me. I was a child in the 60s, a time when there were only 3 channels on our black and white TV, no cell phones, no personal computers. Women were mostly housewives, nurses, or teachers. Miss America and Barbie set the standard for the ideal American woman. Title IX was still a decade away, and Billie Jean King had not yet defeated Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes. Look it up, Battle of the Sexes. And so it is with this historical setting that I share with you my childhood letter to Santa. And this is kind of a memo form. Apparently I was very organized. To Santa from Peel. Number 1, crazy clock game. Number 2, new PJs. Number 3, holster, gun, and belt. Number 4, building boulders. Number 5, live puppy. So much better than the other kind. Skates, size 2. And this curt list is followed by a brief summary statement. Maybe you think this is too much, but give me the live puppy. And the next line has become iconic in my family, and they could recite it with me. Do not disappoint me. Apparently, I felt the need for further explanation. On the other side of the letter, it said, Dear Santa, you may think I am a boy, but it's just the way I am. Last year, you disappointed me by not giving me a punching bag. Do not hurt me with the puppy the same way. But that is not all to Christmas. I'm sorry I said it. Merry Christmas with best wishes, yada yada, Peel. Clearly, I was ahead of my time. I was so deeply disappointed with Santa's gender-specific gifts that I tried to guilt him into giving me what I wanted. A punching bag, a gun and holster set, building blocks, and of course, the live puppy. The boys in my elementary public school told me I couldn't play on the jungle gym, that I couldn't climb because I was a girl. And I climbed anyway, in my dress. They told me that girls couldn't play kickball, and I played anyway. I climbed trees, and I fished with my dad, and I drove boats, and it never occurred to me that any of these activities were inappropriate for a girl. But I was one of the lucky ones, because in 4th grade, my parents sent me here, where I was cheered for my athleticism and allowed to explore my other interests in art and science and music. To my utter delight, we played kickball and soccer at recess, and double dutch, volleyball, and PE. I learned to play hockey and lacrosse and basketball, and I found out that if you made a team, you were exempt from dance class. So I made sure I was on a team year-round. There were no athletics for girls at my previous school, so I was infatuated by the St. Catherine's varsity teams that would march through the lower school in their uniforms on game day, and you could hear them coming down the hall chanting their cheers at the collegiate. Lessons stopped as they paraded around the classroom and back out the door, and I was absolutely enthralled. I wanted what those girls had. I wanted that swishy kilt. Much later, I discovered that wearing a uniform as a team member came with the additional benefits of self-esteem, self-confidence, self-reliance, and a multitude of other desirable social skills. In the 70s, my era, only 5% of high school athletes were female, 1 in 27. Now it's 2 out of 5. Here it's probably a lot more than that. There were no travel teams for girls, no athletic scholarships to colleges, and virtually no media coverage for women in athletics. In 2001, the book Game Face was published, and Julie will remember we went together to the opening of the exhibit in DC. It was part of the 10th anniversary of the National Coalition of Girls' Schools. The book's subtitle was, What Does a Female Athlete Look Like? The author had followed the path of Title IX as she assembled stories and action shots of female athletes in the 20th century. And she was inspired by the lack of coverage of women's sports in the media. Daily, she would count the pictures in the sports sections, males compared to females. And it was 15 to 0, 11 to 0, 12 to 0, 23 to 1. And on the rare occasion that women were photographed, they were often portrayed as victims or vixens, caught at their most vulnerable moments, slumped in defeat, or at the moment of injury, or they were featured in the swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated. There were very few female role models in the print media, not in sports, not anywhere. And this was just 12 years ago. Fast forward, I recently watched another senseless tragedy unfold on the evening news when something else entirely caught my attention. The anchor, the reporter, all those being interviewed, the chief of police, the FBI spokesperson, and the lead physician at the hospital were all women. I actually hit the reverse button on my DVR to see it again because I wondered if anybody else had noticed that. I notice when there's a female pilot on my flight, and I notice when there are women on the tarmac directing the plane or throwing bags onto the conveyor belt. I notice when there are male nurses and male flight attendants, and I notice at work how few women are sitting around the table at staff meetings. While women coached more than 90% of women's teams in 1972, today that number has dropped to about 43%. You think after 40 years of Title IX, we would be closer to equality in athletics, and other things, but we're still far from it. Since Title IX, the number of girls competing in high school sports jumped from about 300,000 to 3.2 million. But girls' opportunities still haven't reached the level that boys were at when Title IX was passed. In high schools today, girls are provided 1.3 million fewer chances to play sports. In collegiate sports, we went up to more people are playing in collegiate sports than ever before, more women, around 200,000. And that's still 60,000 fewer participants than their male counterparts. Women's teams receive just 40% of the overall athletic expenses, a figure that's remained virtually unchanged for years. So you see, we're not done yet. We've come closer to a level playing field, but even as barriers have been lowered, they're not absent. Our Title IX progress has been both uneven and incomplete. In the back of William & Mary Hall, where I work, there's a pole vault pit. It's the first thing when I open the door when they've got winter training. And I love to watch the athletes run full tilt down the track, plant the pole and go soaring in the air, feet forward over the bar, and then I watch as she lands in the pit. She lands in the pit. And I wonder if that pole vaulter knows that girls were once thought to be too weak to pole vault. That this male sport didn't even open up to women until the 1990s. I wanted to be a pole vaulter, but I was born too early. If you could be one, and you could be a police chief, or a doctor, or an FBI director, or an anchorwoman, or a CEO, or a president. Maybe the building blocks you asked for in your letter to Santa will lead to a career in architecture or engineering. I was in that first generation to truly benefit from Title IX. I was allowed to develop that part of myself for which I was hardwired. I thrived under the guidance of women mentors and coaches, and I was able to attend college on a scholarship and make a career out of my passion for sport. You also can thrive and pursue your dreams, athletic or otherwise, in large part due to Title IX. The generations before you have done a lot of the heavy work to lower the barriers, and now you are obligated to continue that work. Question inequality in whatever form it takes. Do not settle for the status quo. Do not be disappointed. As you climb the ladder of success, be sure to reach back and take the hand of another young girl. There's millions of them out there. Help her climb over her barriers. Teach her how to break them and demonstrate to her that she has the power to shatter them. Thank you very much.
Will you please bow your heads and join me for a time of prayer? God of all creation, we pause to take time and reflect on where we come from. We are thankful for the roads and paths that people like Peel Hawthorne have paved for us, for the opportunities to learn, live, grow, and compete. We are thankful for girls' education and for those visionaries who understood that women, as God's creation, deserve equality and justice. Be with this community of young women and educators as we live out the calling to your original creation, reminded by the fact that we have all been created in your image. We lift up in prayer those women around the world who do not have a vision for equality and justice. We pray for those sisters around the globe who suffer under the hand of oppression for simply being born women. We ask to understand and feel the sense of solidarity. Give us wisdom to see how to support and how to be instruments of peace in the world. Be with us today and bind us together as a community as we say the prayer that Jesus taught his disciples, saying, Our Father, who art in